To successfully create our project, we'll need to import some images that we'll be using for the project. For instance, you can see this warrior over here, and you can also see a logo at the top and 3 other images here. 1, 2, 3. So we'll be making use of in total 4 images and 1 logo in this project. So that's in fact 6 images, because we have, apart from the logo, we have 2 icons, the social media icon, Twitter and Instagram. So in general, in total, we are going to be using 7 images for this project. So first thing first, we'll head over to Visual Studio Code, and we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call that folder images. So you name the folder images. I've already downloaded these images down to my computer, so I'm going to select all, and let me minimize this and then drag into this folder we've created. So now we are ready to start. And as well, we'll clear all these things here, all these examples, we'll clear them, just leaving the title. Oh, we've not even added a title. So let's call this title from what we see on our project, my first website. So feel free to give this whatever title you want, and don't forget to save. So now we are about to start our project. Like I said, this project has a wrapper that wraps every content inside of it from the top to the bottom of the project. So it has a wrapper that wraps it. And like I said, everything will go within the body opening and closing tag. This is where we write all our HTML elements, within the body opening and closing tag. Now, first of all, we want to start with a tag called div. In this course, you've seen this for the first time, but what this tag is division. We'll be making use of different segments in this web page. So this div tag is called division, and it is just like every other HTML tag. It does nothing except you style it. So if we preview this on the web browser, there is nothing different about this tag than the other tags. So let's save this and try previewing on the web browser. Remember, we've wiped every other thing, so I don't expect to see anything here. So that is that. So the div tag is no special than any other tag. What makes the difference is the name, which we use in styling any element. So this is just another tag, and it's called div. Now, since this website is being held by a big container which wraps the whole elements, we can give this div a class name called wrapper, meaning that it wraps every element within this web page. So we can call it wrapper, you can also call it container, you can just call it anything. So we have the div class wrapper. Now inside this div class are other elements. As you can see from here, using this screenshot tool again, you see that inside this wrapper div, it has another element, which is the header. So we are going to create another div inside the wrapper div and call it header. Mind you, to be fast with Visual Studio Code, you can just type div.theclassname, and there you go. So div class header, and this header is different from the head tag. So this is our header. In this case, our header will be holding the logo and our navigation menu. If this header is holding a logo and a navigation menu, it means the header element has 2 children, one, the logo, and the navigation menu. So that is still to say, inside the header tag, we have another class called logo, and this time around 2 children and navigation. Like I said, while explaining the modern text editors, I said our project will be built based on modern features. So instead of saying div class header, we can use the HTML tag header direct. So there's a HTML tag called header. So we are going to be using that instead of the div. So the header class, the header tag will go for header. And this header has two children, as you can see over here, the logo and then the navigation menu. That's what we have here, logo and navigation menu. Also, HTML has a tag for navigation, which is called nav. So we don't need this class name. We can give it the tag direct nav. So that is that. Let's save this and preview on the web browser, and we will see nothing because we've not done anything CSS wise. So our page is blank. But if we should refresh the source code, you'll see everything present. So you can see they exist, but nothing to show because we've not used the CSS to flesh out everything we've just done. So going back to our project, we've successfully declared the wrapper div, and this wrapper div is housing every other element within it, among which is the the header, and that's the header here over here. And within the header has two children, the logo and the navigation menu, which we've done. Now don't forget that this navigation menu has four other children: the home, the about us, the warriors, and the join us. So let me maximize this and so you can see it clearly. So these are the four children here. Within the head tag has two children: one, the logo, and two, the navigation menu. And inside the navigation menu, there are four items: the home, the about us, warriors, and joiners. So this is where our list item will come into play. So minimizing this, we'll go over here inside this nav menu. Remember, the nav menu has four children, and we are going to categorize those children under the list item. We are going to be using the unordered list to categorize them. So inside this list, we have first item, which is home, and to be fast and copy this for about us, warrior, and join us. So change this to about us, and this is warriors and join us. So these are the four children inside the navigation menu. So if you begin to understand it this way, then you have the right concept of building a website. Now that is basically it for the header section. Coming over to the hero section or the banner section, you can see it's quite easy. It's not very difficult. So just try to follow along. And you can see this is highlighted, this place is dark, so it's totally out of the header section, meaning that we are going to start our banner section outside this header. It's not going to be inside the header. If it's inside this header, then you are saying this banner exists inside here, which is not true. So you come down over here and start your banner section. So there is no HTML tag for banner. So what we need to do is use a division, and say div.banner or hero. So let's call it hero, the hero section. Now that's the hero div. I've just declared the division for hero section. That's what it means. Now inside this hero section, remember this is just a division, meaning that this is just a block. It doesn't mean that declaring the hero section automatically brings the welcome to Warriors territory and all this, the image here. No, it's just declaring this section. Now what else do you have to do? You now look into this section. This section, the hero section, has two properties. Let me maximize this again. So looking at this hero section, we have two other children inside the main hero section. Number one, we have a text by your left, and number two, we have a background image inside the hero section. So that's it, a background image and then a text by your left. So this background image, we are not going to give a separate div for it, but we are going to put it as a background. That is, this div class hero in the CSS class, we are going to give it a background, which will carry this warrior background. But for the text by your left, we are going to give it another property, and you already know the tag is a paragraph tag. And within that paragraph tag, or rather we can use the heading tag, because as you can see it's a big text, so we use the heading tag H1, and here goes the writing: welcome to the warriors territory. Remember, it doesn't matter the way it is written, we can transform this text to uppercase with CSS. So that is that for the hero section. So you can say it's quite easy to understand, really. So next is the body area. Remember, this body is different from the body in your HTML. I'm just calling it the body because I feel that is where the main content, what you want people to read in your website, other than the hero image, the details you want them to see is in the body contents. So let me maximize this again so we can have a proper view of this area. So this is our body contents, or we can call it body area. So this is the area we're going to declare next using our HTML elements and tags. So now let's minimize, and remember the body area is totally outside the hero section. So this will be outside this section. And Visual Studio Code and other text editor helps indent your work so that you know which is for which. So let's call this body contents to differentiate it from this other body here. So we are calling this body contents. Now inside this body contents goes a number of, first of all, it has this heading that says about warrior territory, and it has the paragraph text, as you can see, and it has the warrior section that holds the 3 warrior images. So taking it line by line, first of all, inside the body content we have this heading here about warrior territory. And this heading is quite smaller than the first one on the banner image. So we are going to give this H2 and about warrior territory. So that is that. And the next, outside the heading, we have the paragraph text. So paragraph, and let's just copy this. Going to copy this. Is a dummy text, by the way. So I'm going to copy this whole text, copy and paste. Don't worry, it's long, but it's not going to be that long on the browser. So we've just pasted the text there, and the next item there inside the body content are the warrior images, the gold warrior, the silver, and the bronze warrior. So, and that exists outside the paragraphs. So we're going to come outside this paragraph and declare another section for these warriors. Remember, this warrior section, if you take a look at it very well, let me show you quickly. If you take a look at this warrior section, there is an invisible container holding these 3 warriors. What that does is that it helps this warrior to stay in their position without floating left and right on the web page. So we are going to create a container that is going to hold these 3 warriors, and we'll call that container warriors. That's the class name for the container. So we are going to say div.warriors. We've created a container that is going to hold the 3 warriors. The next thing we are going to do is to give a class name to each of these warriors. Something like warrior 1, warrior 2, warrior 3, so that they will take their position inside the parent container called warriors. So inside this container, we're going to have something like warrior 1, and we'll copy that and paste for warrior 2 and warrior 3. So we'll change this to warrior 2, warrior 3. So these 3 warriors are held in the parent container called warriors. Also, these warriors, they have their names. This is the gold warrior, the silver warrior, and the bronze warrior. So we are going to also do that here. Take notes. The gold warrior goes for the first warrior, warrior 1, right? And the silver warrior goes for the second warrior, warrior 2. And then the bronze warrior goes for the third warrior, which is warrior 3. So that is to say, we are going to give another div or a class name for the first warrior, warrior 1. So let's just say div dot w level, which is warrior level, the level of this warrior. So this is gold warrior. So that is that for this one. And we can copy this and give this warrior 2 his own level, which is silver warrior. Now I'm not going to change the class name, which is w level, because as you can see, they all have the same styling and everything. So just one CSS class for this w level warrior is going to affect the 3 styles for this, which as you can see, they are the same. So there's no point giving them different class name. I just need to change their names. So this is the bronze warrior. Okay, lastly, we are done with the warrior section. Next is the join us now section, which is going to collect users' email, and that's like an introduction to HTML forms. But in this course, we are not going in depth into HTML forms because we only made use of the input element and the button element. So that will be okay for this project. So that's the next section, which is the join us now section. And as you can see, it's quite different because it's like a call to action. They normally call it CTA, call to action. So every call to action in a site should be attractive and visible enough for somebody to see it as a call to action. So if somebody visits this site and scroll down to this place, there is no way the person won't notice this area because the color is thick and bold, and as well this email field is wide enough, the height, and as well the placeholder inside is big enough for you to see. Then the join us button is having a very attractive color. That is the call to action. So that's the next item on the list. And if I use this screenshot tool again to screen grab this section, you can see it has a parents division. You can call it a class name of maybe join us now or subscribe, whatever you want to call it. Then inside this parents division, you have another heading here which says want to be a warrior, and you have another subheading that says join us now. Then you have the input field, and then you have a button. So what this means is that this subscription section has 1, 2, 3, 4 children. So that is what we are going to be doing right now. So let me scroll over to that portion of the sites, and here we are. So that is that. So where are we going to put this section? If you can guess, outside the warrior zone, right? Because it's totally outside this warrior zone. So this is the indentation here. This is the div. This is where the warrior div closes. So outside this div is going to be our subscription. So let's call it join us. So div.join us is going to give us that class. Join us. Okay. Now take notes. This join us is the parent div. What you see here, the parent div. Inside this parent div are 4 children, a heading, a subheading, an input field, and a button. 4 children. So let's go h3. So let's just call that h3, and it says want to be a warrior, and let's make this a paragraph. Say join us now. So after that, we have the input field, which is input, and the type is email. Now to write this placeholder over here, we use the placeholder property, which is placeholder, and you say enter your email. So whatever you write here will appear over here. So that's a placeholder. So that is that for the input field. Next, you have the button. And what will be the value of this button? The value will be a submit button, because actually you are submitting that information, your email address or whatever you'll be writing there would have to be submitted. But in our case, remember, this is pure HTML and CSS, so we will not be submitting to anywhere actually, but that is how to use your input field and button in HTML. So inside this button, we have a text called join us. So we are going to write it here, join us. And remember, this text we are not submitting anywhere, so we are going to link it with a hash, meaning that it should go nowhere. We use the hash symbol and then we close our link over here. Okay, so let's save so that we won't forget totally. Always save your work from time to time. It's very important. The last but not the least is the footnotes, which contains your copyrights and social media handles if it's necessary. So this is the last section and it's totally off the subscription area. That is to say, we are going to put this division under the joiners, outside the joiners. So we are going to call this footer. So footer is a HTML tag. So we are going to give it directly footer. And inside this footer, as you can see, it has just two items, which is the copyright and the social handles. Now take a look at these social handles very well. An invisible container is holding them, just as this invisible container holds these three warriors, so that they won't float here and there on the web page. So also, whenever you have such things that will place in such manner, it's very good to put them inside a container that will fitly hold them in that position. So to show you what I mean, let me inspect these elements so you can see what I mean. Okay, now take a look at this place. So this is the footer area. If you click on this arrow here, you see that the footer has two children, the copyrights and the social media icons, which I gave it a class name of socials. So this one has a class name copyrights and this one has a class name socials. And you can see that there is another arrow there, meaning that these socials you are saying is the parent container. You can see that it's housing the Twitter and the Instagram logo. So if I click on this arrow, then you will see these two images, the Twitter and the Instagram. So whenever you have things arranged in that manner, it is very important to put them in a container. So let's minimize this and I'll go over to the code. And in our footer section, we have two children, right? The first is the copyright. So div.copyrights. If I spell that correctly. And the other child is div.socials. So that is that. Now inside these socials goes two images, right? So we are going to use the image div, the image tag rather, for the first time. And as you can see, it automatically brought out some attributes. By default, you can say this is the image tag, right? And it's a self-closing tag. It doesn't have a closing tag like image. This, no, it's self-closing. So this is an image tag, but you can't just display an image on the web browser because number one, where is the image? Number two, the web browser will not be able to interpret this tag properly. So in order for you to display an image on your web page, we use the image tag with its attributes. This attributes, src, is called the source. It's telling you, where can I source this image? Where is the source of this image? Then the second attribute, alt, is the alternative name you will want to give this image. And this is very useful in the case where you have a very slow internet network and your image happens to load sluggishly. Before it displays the image, it first of all displays the name of the image. So it's very important. So for instance, this first image is a Twitter icon, right? So I'm going to write Twitter. So even if our browser decide to load sluggishly, it will load the alternative name, which is Twitter, and somebody viewing this site will say, okay, a Twitter logo is there. So that's the benefit of the alternative name. Now, how can we source this image? Remember, we created the images folder over here, and within that folder are several images for our project. And here we have the Twitter, and our Twitter image has the extension .png. So we are going to write it out just as it is for it to display properly on the web browser. But remember, the image is inside a folder called images. So we are going to say source, look for a folder called images. Inside that folder, look for twitter.png. So that's what it means. Our image is inside a folder, and inside that folder, look for twitter.png. Because if we write just this, twitter.png, he's going to look outside the images folder. He's going to come to website design class and start looking for twitter.png over here. And it's going to display a broken icon saying that there is nothing like twitter.png here, which is true. So you have to make it clear that this twitter.png is inside a folder called images. So that is that. And then we have a second image called instagram.png. So we just copy and paste and change this to Instagram and the alternative name to Instagram. So we've successfully added our image over here. Remember, we didn't add the hero image because it's not a direct image. These are direct images. So the hero image in this case is not a direct image but a background image. So we are going to do that when we start fleshing out our HTML elements with CSS. Okay, now we've come to the end of the first part of this project, which is the HTML aspect of it, and it's definitely not the end actually, because as we run this code on the web browser, we are going to be seeing some little changes we need to do, tweak here and there, and to make everything perfect. So but for now, we've done the basics. So let's save and refresh on the web browser and see what this page is going to look like. It's going to look so ugly. So this is our original page where we are test running our stuff. So this is your warrior website. Very wonderful, right? So that's that. You can see enter your email, but basically all we did is, and by the way, our dummy CSS is still showing what's our example, so we are going to change all that very soon. But you can see that basically everything is working fine, right? We have the navigation menu, which is the home, about us, warriors, join us, and that is what we have over here as well, right? We also have the logo. We have not given the logo an image, so it's not there yet. So let's quickly do that right now. This is our logo, and I think it's a direct image. So let's head over and place our logo. So this is the logo, and this logo is the container that is housing the logo image. Inspect these elements, right click, inspect elements, or you use letter Q on your keyboard. So you can see our logo image here. It's called logo2.png. Yeah, and the class, which is the logo, is the container that is holding this image to fit inside that place and stay there. Remember, if you don't fix it in a container, it's going to just float here and there without direction. So you have to give it a container so that you place your image inside that container and it's going to stay just where it's supposed to stay. So that's the logo. And so image, the source, let's say what we named it is logo2.png. So it's going to search for this image inside the images folder and then logo2.png. We can call it logo. So once the browser loads slowly, and this alternative name can just show, and anybody viewing the site can know that okay, a logo is about to load there. So let's preview our site once again on the web browser. And by the way, it is nothing close to responsive because we've not done that. We've not gotten to that aspect. But this is how our site looks. And I think we're getting there. So you can imagine a site like this that will be transformed to a site like this. That's the benefit of CSS. CSS helps you to style your web page and bring out the flesh of it. So this is just like the skeleton, the bone of the site. And if you refresh it over here, this is the source code. You're going to see all those long things we've done behind the scene. So that's it. So we've successfully done the HTML parts. And like I said, we'll be doing a little tweaking and adjusting to make it perfect. But it's now time to start fleshing out all these HTML elements with CSS. And that I'll be showing you in the next video.